And we'll begin with our public safety announcement. Is Officer Santolo or Mosley there? There you are. The floor is yours.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Before Curtis does the update, I just want to introduce someone. We have a new captain here at A7s, Captain Dean Bickerton. He just wanted to stop in and say hello, and then we'll leave you to your agenda. Captain.
How you doing? My name is Captain Dean Bickerton. I was recently promoted to captain about a week or so ago and assigned to District 7. A little bit about my history. I worked most of my career in Area B, which is Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan. Youth Violence Strike Force, homicide. I was a detective for a while and recently came from the citywide bike unit for the last 2 years. So this is new to me, District 7. So I look forward to having an opportunity to meet all of you and discuss some of your community concerns. Thank you.
Thanks, Captain. We'll get Officer Mosley. I think he's on. He'll get you the update, and then we'll stand by for some questions. Curtis.
Good evening, everyone. All right, let's see if we can go through what we have here. I'm going to start off with there's been an increase of motor vehicle accidents in the Orange Heights area, mostly the high numbers of Bennington Street and McClellan Highway. On the 13th, we had a pedestrian hit by a motor vehicle, and the victim sustained minor injuries. The operator of the vehicle was cited. We also have had a serious motor vehicle accident at 41 Bennington Street involving a pedestrian. The driver fled the scene, and that's still under investigation. We've had a few reports of car breaks in the past few weeks. This has been an ongoing issue this year. Remember to lock your car doors and do not leave valuables visible. There's no reason to invite any unwanted guests into your vehicles. We also had a report of an elderly woman that hired a contract and he stole items from her house. He was tracked down and now he's in court. The detectives were dealing with that. Commercial breaks are still an issue in the Heights area. On May 13th, they broke into the Classic Smoke Shop, which is located at 971 Bennington Street. That's still under investigation. We also have a driver drove through Dunkin' Donuts glass window, May 12th. There were no injuries. The driver blamed his flip-flops that he was wearing as the cause of the crash. Also, I don't know if I mentioned this to you guys or if you guys know, but we also have just gotten a new sergeant detective who's in charge of our DCU, which is the Drug Control Unit, and they have been very, very busy. I should say, out there working, and they've been making good quality drug arrests. As in some of their drug arrests, they've also, made some firearm arrests as well. And by being on the subject of firearm arrests, we here in District 7 have made numerous firearms arrests and recovered numerous firearms, so that is an issue. And we feel that it's probably, we hope that it doesn't, with the weather, the nice weather being here now, that it becomes an even bigger issues. But we are well aware of it. We do have officers out there actively, patrolling and all that good stuff. So our traffic enforcement has increased. We've issued a good number of citations, and a few motorists have been issued criminal citations. There's been no reported serious crimes in Orient Heights area. An example, homicides, rapes, aggravated assaults, et cetera, et cetera. I believe that's all I have.
Do you have any questions, concerns? Are we still on?
Give them a few more seconds in the chat here. Oh, it doesn't appear to be any questions. So,
Well, as always, you have my email, my phone number, open door, come on in, say hello, ask for me, and we'll chat.
we appreciate the update. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks for having us. I'll stay on and monitor the chat, okay?
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a nice night, everyone.
Take care.
And I guess we can just move right into our development presentation. This is for 124 Layden Street. Is somebody here representing that project ready to speak?
Good evening, it's Richard Lenz. I'm just actually calling up the slide deck if you can give me a moment.
Okay, no problem. And you can go ahead and share the screen when you're ready.
Sure, thank you.
Mhm. And just a reminder, we just posted again the sign-in form for voting eligibility. So if you haven't signed in yet, please jump onto the chat and go ahead and do that.
Just bear with me, it's just still opening a bit. Hold on one second. Sorry, the system's really slow tonight. Let me just make sure I can open this. Great, we able to see that?
We can see it now.
Great, thank you. Sorry for the delay on that. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Richard Lenz. I'm an attorney here in East Boston, represent MG2 Group. This is our follow-up presentation for the project at 124, 126 Layden Street. We're asking this evening for a vote in support of the proposal. With me is Eric Zackerson, who is the project architect, available to answer any of the design questions. I'm going to run through the presentation briefly, but certainly saving enough time at the end to answer any specific questions that we have. So quick highlight overview of our project. This is an existing, a little over 6,000 square foot lot. There's an existing 3-family dwelling. We are proposing a subdivision of that lot, which would create 2 new lots. The existing 3-family dwelling would remain. We're proposing a new 4-unit dwelling with 4 parking spaces and a roof deck. The units would be 2-bedroom, ranging in size from about 750 to almost 900 square feet each. Upon completion, this would be intended for home ownership, so these would be sold as individual condominium units. Couple of highlights. So these market rate size units, based upon their size, these aren't for 13 or 1,500 square foot units. These would be ideal for starter home size condo units. We will have an elevator in this building that does certainly allow for better accessibility in the building, showing this with larger bathrooms, and then these are all easily convertible to accessible units. There will be, as part of any permitting project, especially this project, we're required to receive approval from the Boston Water and Sewer Commission to handle what we call on-site stormwater management. And some of it doesn't exist presently with a lot of the existing homes that are in the area. And because of that, we're required to deal with all of our stormwater runoff based upon the topography of this site. That would be a significant benefit for the particular location. In addition, because the state building code now requires it, this building would be fitted with an automatic sprinkler system and a central alarm system, so much safer than the buildings that currently exist. And then we'll enhance some of the appeal along that section of Layden Street. So quick bird's eye view, Gladstone, for those familiar with the neighborhood, Gladstone up to the top here. We're bounded by Breed as well as Layden Street. So we have frontage on 2 streets. Breed Street, obviously to our rear, a little higher, and then Layden Street down at the lower level. It's just, again, another bird's eye view showing the various sizes of buildings in and around the area. There are some triple deckers, obviously this larger multifamily up on Breed and Gladstone, and then a various sizes and designs as you go up and down Layden Street, which I'm sure everybody's familiar with. Just a different view. This is looking back up Layden Street here, and then a bird's eye view showing the site with the vacant area located to the side of it. So we're within relatively close walking distance to Orient Heights T Station. That's important for transit oriented design. We are providing 4 parking spaces, however, but just so that people are familiar with the proximity of public transit, which is also an attractive component to any new development in and around the neighborhood. So we're showing here the existing site plan. You can see the existing 3-family dwelling is located pretty far right on the lot, and then we have a wood shed that's located on the left side that would obviously be removed. For those familiar with reviewing plans like this, these lines represent the topography of the site. Anybody who has gone by here knows the steepness from Breed Street down to Layden Street. That's evident from the site itself, but we're showing the topography difference here with these very close topographical hash lines that indicate a very steep condition from one street to the next. So looking at the existing conditions, again, the existing 3-family is the blue building, and then the area to the left is considered the area that we're going to propose this development. Just a different view looking back and up and down Layden Street, just so we can see what the surrounding context is as well. So our zoning abstract, this is from the Boston Planning and Development Agency. This indicates that we are located in a zoning subdistrict known as a 2F 4000. The 2F indicates the maximum number of units that are allowed on any one lot, and the 4000 indicates the minimum lot size that would actually be necessary for development of any residential property. We have obviously more than the 4000. That's one of the reasons why we're proposing to subdivide this lot. But this is essentially the zoning restrictions that apply, and we'll walk through those in the zoning table in a moment, but just so people can understand what the specific zoning is that's applicable to this area. So our proposed site plan showing the subdivision, you can see this dotted line here would separate this into the 2 lots. The remaining portion of the lot here on the right side would contain the 3-family, and our proposed 4-unit is this area here. By way of a zoning summary, because we are proposing 4 units on one lot, we do require a variance to the Board of Appeals. It's one of the reasons why we're going through a community process. We would be proposing a lot size of 3,634 square feet, slightly below the 4,000 that's required. So for that difference, that 300 some odd square feet, we're requesting a variance. We would meet the minimum lot width and the minimum frontage at 40 feet. And then our front yard is what we call a modal setback. That's essentially the average setback of homes on that side of Layden Street, regardless of whatever the required setback will be. So if the city says that you have to have a 10-foot setback, but all the homes on that side of the street are set back at a lesser amount, that's the setback we use. That's what we describe modal. Our side yard, we're showing it at 3 feet 2 inches and 3 feet, both west and east. We've actually changed that. We actually were showing 2 feet earlier, so we're at 3 feet now. 3 feet allows us to add windows. Under the state building code, you must be 3 feet from your property line. 7 foot is the variance that would be necessary, but the impact here should be minimal. Our left side of our property doesn't really have a lot of abutting conditions. There's not a structure immediately to our left, and the right would be our building that's currently owned by this developer. So the impact will be relatively small compared to if we were building right next to another building to our left. Our rear yard is at 25 feet, almost 26 feet, 10 and a half inches, more than 25 feet. We're entitled to take a shallow lot exception because we are below the 100-foot setback. So typically, lots in Boston are laid out as 100 feet in depth. The zoning code says that when you are less than 100 feet in depth, you can deduct 6 inches from the requirement. In this particular case, we would be able to drop down to about 25 feet, as opposed to the 40 feet that's typically required in a 2F 4,000 district. One other thing I will point out that even though we're entitled to a shallow lot exception, as I mentioned earlier, Breed Street is a public way, and because we have frontage on 2 streets, the zoning code also allows for no rear yard at all. We're not proposing that. We do have a pretty good setback, but you don't have to have a rear yard where you do have 2 streets, both front and back on your property. So we feel that we meet the spirit and intent of the code for the rear yard setback. Our floor area ratio, and that's the relationship of the amount of square footage that we have proposed as it relates to the amount of land that we have. So in this case, we have 3,634 square feet. If you multiply that by 1.09, that will tell you the total amount of square footage that we're proposing in this building. The maximum that you can have is 0.8 in the district, so that's why this requires a variance. We're slightly above that 0.8, and therefore we're going to request the variance. I will point out that based upon our last presentation, we've actually reduced the square footage in this building, and that's in response to some of the comments that we've heard. So we've dropped this down from a 1.14 FAR down to 1.09. So that's a little bit of a change in the actual overall size of this project. Our building is 3 stories, 31 feet 8 inches. The 31 feet 8 inches is actually compliant with the 2F 4,000 regulations under the zoning code. 35 feet is what's allowed. You could have a building up to 35 feet. Clearly, as anybody who's familiar with that section of Lade Street, that part of the neighborhood, 35 feet in a triple decker is not uncommon, but we will be below that at 31 feet 8 inches. The only difference comes from a design regulation that's in Article 53. It says that the building should be no more than 2.5 stories. Because we're proposing a full 3rd story, we do require relief for that half story. But again, the key here is that we're below the 35-foot height limit that is actually permitted in the district. We do have open space about almost 1,150 square feet. We've modified it a little bit to make some adjustments to the building, including that setback on the right side as we show. There is no open space requirement when you are proposing anything more than a 2-family in the district. So no variance is necessary for open space, but we are providing a good amount of open space by keeping our footprint not at 100% of the lot. We are proposing 4 spaces. Depending upon how you calculate this, we would probably require 5 based upon how the zoning code is applied. However, the Boston Transportation Department has recommendations that they do citywide for the number of parking spaces that are typically required when you're within close proximity to public transit. As I showed in that earlier slide, we are within relatively shorter walking distance to public transit, and therefore the Boston Transportation Department typically recommends a maximum number of parking spaces, and in this case, probably somewhere around 0.75 for the number of units that you're proposing. Last but not least is the roof deck. We are proposing to have a roof deck, and that is considered a conditional use permit. So just a quick overview before I ask Eric to walk us through some of the program here. We're showing the ground level here. As you can see, we do have a garage access point. Lobby is located here. That elevator I discussed is located here. And the 4 parking spaces are located towards the back portion of the building. 3 of these spaces are considered full-size parking space. 1 is compact, but the compact space actually still would allow for a good-sized vehicle, even though we call them compact. We're not talking about very small vehicles in these spaces. Compact space is about 7 feet in width by about 18 feet in depth. That does accommodate a number of cars, probably not a large SUV, but cars can fit in a compact space. As we look at the level 2 plan, this is just sort of the layout of units 1 and units 2. As you can see here, they're pretty much almost mirrored in how they're laid out. We do have a deck off of unit 1 and a deck off of unit 2 that are located close to each other. You'll see that in the elevation. And then as we move up the building, units 3 and 4 would occupy that 3rd level. And again, very similar layout with decks located towards the front of the building, and then exclusive roof decks that are located on the roof. These decks are accessed by a hatch. There's not a head house being proposed, so the profile of this building remains low. The 31 feet that I talked about earlier is the top of that roof. And then the roof decks are designed in a way to keep the visibility of the building somewhat uniform with the surrounding area. So we're looking here at some sections. We'll jump back to these as needed, but just to give you an idea of what the topography looks like from the back of a building to the front of the building. And the same thing if we're looking at sort of peering through the building as to what the floor to ceiling height looks like and essentially where the stairwells and walls will be. This is a view of the left side, and again, a section showing the topography. So the left side of your screen is where Breed Street is. The right side is where Layden Street is. And then looking at the right side, just basically flipping the building. And then our elevations with the axiomatic view here, showing the relationship again from the back of the building down towards the front. So with this, I'm going to ask Eric to walk us through the elevation and context and to talk a little about some of the materials and how we've arrived at this design. So Eric, if you could talk a little bit about that.
Sure, thanks, Rich. Yeah, in the previous presentations, we had a very similar building, and we have not made many changes to this, even though we've kind of reshaped the building a little bit based on other comments. The feeling is that the majority of Layden Street, at least this end of Layden Street, is very much a very simple exterior expression. And so the second and third floor are going to be cement fiberboard, hardy board as it's called, or 6-inch exposure. Very simple material palette and very simple windows. We are choosing to accentuate the ground floor in a little bit of masonry and dress it up as a new building, but keeping it very simple, very similar to what the existing context of the street is. In one of the last meetings, we were asked to kind of dress up a little bit of the detailing. So we've done that a little bit. I don't know if we've done it enough, but we've started adding a few more shadow lines in the cornices and trying to make it feel a little less modern and a little bit more decorated, especially along the side and the top of the cornice and around the door, the main entrance door, and give it some feeling of a little bit of specialness. But on the whole, trying to keep the building feeling very much like those around it, the ones on Layden Street, and not trying to stand out as being too modern, too different, too new, but definitely, you know, using the newer technologies of cement fiberboard and rain screens. Next slide. Yeah, and then this is looking the other way. It's a little bit easier to see the decks. We had organized and still are showing both decks on the front on both levels. The idea is that we want each one to have a small open space. Sorry, those are I'm trying to keep them quiet. The decks on the front are, we did organize them on the front there to try and make sure that they could but each have a very small outdoor space, a private outdoor space, and we kept them on Layden Street instead of having them on the side yards or the rear yard where they might disturb more neighbors. But in reality, it's probably enough space for 3 people to stand or 1 person to sit comfortably. They're really tiny little decks up there, but we did want to make sure that you see them and you're aware of them. And then yeah, and that's what you'd see here from Layden Street looking up at the building.
Thanks, Eric. So just by way of overview, you know, we started this process as any typical development process would work in the city. We filed for building permit and requested an appeal before the zoning board. Next in that process is the community outreach, the community process. You know, we held an abutters meeting on March 31st. We did a design review with the OHNC Neighborhood Council on April 7th, and we're here at the voting meeting this evening. We anticipate being before the zoning board this spring. We will ultimately go before the Boston Planning and Development Agency for design review, and that's assuming we get our approvals, never a guarantee that we do. BPDA design review ensures that this project recognizes and respects the guidelines when it comes to urban design and planning and the materials that we're proposing to use and the relationship of our building to other surrounding buildings in the area. Once that is all completed, the earliest we're looking at probably for permit issuance would be the fall. That may be somewhat optimistic just based on the way schedules are working at BPDA and ISD, but that would be the earliest we would see that. Construction likely would begin right after permit issuance, and we anticipate this project to take about 10 months to complete in earnest. So from start to finish, we're looking at about a 10-month construction schedule. So with that, I'm happy to address any questions or comments.
And I'll see if there's anything in the comments. You can raise your hand and I can ask you to unmute. Please don't forget to sign in. It's in the chat.
I have a question.
Gail, is that your radio?
Yes, it's my TV.
I know you couldn't
Sorry,
hear.
I forgot to-
I know you couldn't
Sorry,
hear when the
I
baby was talking. So
Sorry,
I
I
wanna make sure.
forgot. Sorry,
hear
I
you.
forgot. Yeah, okay. Sorry. The pot calling the kettle black here. Is this a 3-family?
4 units,
But is it 3-story?
3 stories, correct? Yep. So parking on the lower level and residential on 2 levels above.
And so what is the existing building?
A 3-family to our right.
3 levels.
3, correct. Yep. So the building to our right, Gail, has an exposed foundation with a few steps up, has living space on all 3 levels. Our building is proposed at 3 levels, but the lower level is lobby, garage, and then we have 2 levels of living above. So that the only 2 levels that are occupied are the 2nd and 3rd level.
What is this bizarre drawing I'm looking at? It looks like there's a building behind a building.
I don't know which drawing you're looking at, Gail.
I don't know. I'm looking at the one that's on the screen now. It's
It's a rendering. This is a rendering showing the, hold on 1 second. So if you look, can you see that one?
right.
This is a comparison. So on the left side, we're showing what the current condition is. On the right side, we're showing the proposed condition so that the context of what we're proposing can be viewed as if it were there.
I'm confused. When I look at
Let me try to help you. What are you confused about?
the picture that you just had before, it looked like there was a building in front of the porches. You see what I'm looking at now?
Well, I just swapped the photo. So on the left side is the existing condition, and on the right side is what the rendered condition would look like. So what we're showing you is if the building were built that we're proposing, what it would look like in the context of the streetscape.
I don't know. It's mumbo jumbo to me. So what is
Okay,
happening?
I'm sorry. Is there another question?
Yeah, what is the building on the left looking like in comparison to what the rendering is of the smaller looking three-story? Why does it?
I don't understand your question.
Well, it looks like one building is sitting in front of another in this rendering that you have up.
I'm gonna invite you to use your imagination and imagine that this building that we're showing is on the vacant lot that's immediately adjacent to the building that exists there now. So you have the 3-family, which you can see off to the right of the screen in the proposed rendering. And then you see our building that's being proposed where essentially, yeah, thank you. That's the existing building.
Oh, so there's not going to be 2 buildings. It's just one building.
We're proposing
Yeah,
just one
exactly.
building, and we're keeping
Right.
the existing building. We're proposing just one building, correct?
Correct. This is the existing
I-
building
I-
next to it.
We're 2 buildings going up.
No, one.
Oh, no, sorry. No, just one.
Does that answer your question, Gail?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I wasn't here at the beginning, so.
Oh, okay. No, I'm
Fine.
happy to
Clear
explain.
that
to you.
up for you.
And Ben, I see you have your hand raised. Do you want to go ahead and?
Yeah, just a quick clarification on that, because I thought what I heard is there is a single property that you guys are buying that has an existing unit or a house on it today, and then you're dividing the plot into two, dividing the existing lot so it can have two separate structures. So maybe I'll start there. Is that what I'm understanding is correct?
Yep. So
That is
we're not,
correct.
yeah, we're not purchasing the property. My client owns the property.
Yeah. So you've already owned the property. Yes. So yeah, putting that. Yeah. So you guys own the property. So in essence, you're taking a lot that has 3 family today, and you're creating 7 families in that existing lot.
No, we're creating 4. So there's 3.
No. You're adding additional 4 on top
Right,
of
we're
the
not
existing
creating
3. So
7.
you're going from what a lot that has 3 families today to a lot that, if this is approved, will have 7 families. So I want to make sure I'm clear on that, everybody else is clear, that you're actually over doubling what exists on that existing lot today. Is that accurate?
Your math is correct. Yes. That's
Okay. Thank you for explaining that. I just want to make sure it's clear, because it almost feels like, yeah. So it's 7 units where an existing 3 family is today in 2 separate buildings. Okay. Thank you. That's my only question.
I would just add that it's 7 units, 3 on the existing building, and then 4 on the vacant lot portion of that 3 family.
Okay. That's my
And-
question. Thank you.
You have another question, Gail?
I do. So what is the height of the new building?
31 feet, just under 32 feet, Gail. So below what the height limit is for the district.
All right.
Looking in the chat.
And-
Units are for ownership, is that correct?
That is correct. So difference is that some buildings are built where they're retained by the developer as a rental project. Units are rented, whether 6-month or a year lease or longer. These would be individual condominium units and either professionally managed or self-managed by the Association of Unit Owners.
And are there any abutters who have any thing they'd like to add to this?
A butter here, I'd just like to ask everyone to vote no. We don't want this. There shouldn't be variances, and there shouldn't be 7 units in that lot.
And Joanne's asking in the comments, why can't this be a 2F?
So part of what we look at when analyzing assets for development is, what the context of the area is. I understand the zoning is 2F, but as you can see immediately, next door to what we're proposing is an existing 3. There are a number of multifamilies and 3s in the area. Certain neighborhoods just don't have any mix of uses like multifamilies in the area. We feel that multifamily is a use that is existing in this particular neighborhood, and that's why we're proposing this as a multi, especially since we're providing parking in a garage.
And Gail, do you have another question?
Yeah, a concern. We know you've been pecking away at not you personally, but some of your projects, I'm sure, are pecking away. I'm not sure which attorney is representing which project from my memory, but this is an area that is only zoned 1 and 2 family. The 3s are grandfathered in, so I would suggest that it should be 2 family. If anything at all on the lot.
Thank you, Gil.
And Donna, I see your hand is up.
Yes, thank you. I am also a direct abutter, and I echo the previous comment. I am asking people to vote no. This is a family neighborhood. Everything is already getting overdeveloped, and we'd like to keep family homes and community as as it has been for the last 100+ years.
Are there any other comments or questions? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and let's see, put the link here in the chat for the vote. Give me 1 second.
Can I just ask for a restatement of the voting guidelines of who's eligible to vote?
Yes, so you need to have been at the last 2 meetings or be a direct abutter.
Okay,
And
and how is that determined?
we verified that through the sign-in sheet.
I have a question. I haven't signed in as a attended yet, so is my vote going to get counted?
Yes,
All right.
so you go ahead and sign in right now. When you sign in, we can see what time you've signed in, so.
All right. Oh, okay. So I'm not sure I can find that link again.
Just been posted in the chat. Both links have been posted in the chat.
By Tara.
Tara, she has posted the one for sign in, and the OHNC is for
Alright,
the
let me-
vote.
All right, let me do the sign in first. If you'll bear with us.
And if you do have any other questions that you think of, you can certainly send them to me and I can forward them on. And we can get you some answers for your vote.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, one final question. When is the vote tallied? Is it this
So
evening?
the voting will end tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Shoot.
Has everybody been able to access the sign-in sheet and the voting sheet?
I'm still doing voting.
Okay, well, I'm gonna leave the meeting on here for a few more minutes. Hold 1 second. I see someone's got their hand raised. Mr. Underwood, you want to go ahead and speak?
Hi, yes. So I've attended several meetings. I don't believe I was at the last meeting. Did I hear you right that there had to be 2 in a row?
Excuse me, 2 of the last 3.
Do you have a record of that? Because
Yeah, no, so
I-
we have a sign-in sheet from each meeting, and so I open all of them and I go through and check.
okay, so I will find the voting under, I'm not sure where it's in the chat.
It's in the chat. There should be 2 forms you'll need. There's the sign-in sheet, and then there's
Okay,
the
I get it.
voting.
I get it. I just did the first one. Okay, thank you.
And so I'm going to leave this meeting open for another few minutes, but basically I think we're done. If you have some questions about voting, I'll stick around and answer those questions for you. Otherwise, thank you for coming to the meeting, and I will send out the minutes in the next day or 2. Have a pleasant evening.
Thank you. see what's going on here. Okay. Okay, let's get some food.
And sort of last call for any help with voting. I'm gonna close the meeting here. Unless I hear from someone in the next 10 seconds or so. Okay, well, everybody have a good evening and we'll see you next time.
Thanks.